It all comes back to money.
This is the Keeping Your Money Show with Jamie Westenbarger and Bart Steinler.
All right, welcome back to the Keeping Your Money Show. Jamie Westenbarger, joined as always by Bart Steinler. We're talking about lump sum pensions and pension options, what to do when faced with that situation. Definitely a lot of different avenues and ways to think about that, and never a cut and dry decision. And, you know, Bart, we're going to talk about this coming up, how retirement's different from our parents' generations and will continue to be. But I think that's a further example of it really doesn't matter what other people are doing. You know, you're such a unique individual. We're all such unique people that what the person you work with did has nothing to do with you at all. What your mom did, or your grandpa, or your cousin, or your brother, or your coworker. I mean, we're all totally different people with different needs and aspirations and expectations of life in general.
Yeah, it goes back to the story about the advisor I was speaking with a couple of weeks ago, and he was giving a presentation in a 401k inside an industrial plant, and he had a table of 8 guys there, and he said, "Hey, you know, where do you guys go for your financial advice?" And, you know, they pointed to one guy at the end of the table. Right. It's like, well, that guy's like, "Oh, I didn't know there were, you know."
We see that a lot. We'll go in on a 401k plan that we're the advisor, and I'll sit down with an individual participant who's 25 years old, and I'll say, "Okay, I see what you're invested here. How'd you come up with this investment mix?" And he'll say, "Oh, well, you know, I talked to Charlie. Charlie knows a lot about this." "Oh, who's Charlie?" "Charlie, he works with me, you know." Well, I go talk to Charlie.
He's in charge.
Charlie's 63 years old, you know, has completely different investment needs than what this 25-year-old sitting in front of me does. So
he's in charge of the left-handed monkey wrenches in the tool crib.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we all have our experiences and things that we can be good at, but I don't know if counting on the guy that you work with or the gal you work with is the best option there. But at least those people are actually saving, because unfortunately the newest report out from the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, lets us know that 52% of people out there have something saved. 48% of those 55 and older have nothing put away in IRAs or 401ks. I mean, let that set in for a second. Nothing. That is zero. They have not made one contribution to their retirement savings. That is terrifying. And just to hit it home, because I know you're listening and you listen to this program, so you have some interest and understanding of your need to save. You might say, well, at least it's not me. But ladies and gentlemen, these people are going to have to pay their bills somehow. We can't have half of our population living in poverty. And if they're counting on Social Security as their sole source of income, because clearly that's what they're doing, in 10 years, when they need to pay their bills and their Social Security check comes in for $1,100, that's not going to cut it.
No. But on the flip side of that, you know, there's always a good side to every story, and this number has improved 4% in the last 6 years. So we are chipping away at this humongous problem, a little pebble at a time.
Oh, that's terrifying. Now, some people do have access to a pension, so that could account for some of this. But they do acknowledge that right about 30% have no pension and no assets whatsoever. They simply are working to pay their bills and have no understanding or concept or idea what will happen the day they retire. And a lot of times we hear, well, I'm not going to retire. But of course, we've addressed on this show a number of times that you don't retire by choice many times. And we're seeing local companies here, even in West Michigan, that are cutting back workforces significantly.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily always choose when it's time for you to go. Sometimes someone else chooses for you, or health or injury or whatever.
Right.
And it's getting a little concerning that so many people are approaching retirement. And I mean, we're going to have to foot the bill. I mean, we're going to have to really start considering, as the responsible people who are saving for our future, that there's going to have to be a percentage of that we're almost going to have to account for being responsible for assisting the rest of the people in this country who aren't doing it. On top of the fact, not to like pile on more bad news, but I mean, we are a consumer-driven economy. It's very probable that some of these very people who have no money set aside are largely consumers. They're consumer-oriented people because that's probably why they haven't saved.
Right.
So right now they're contributing significantly to our GDP by their purchasing power, and at some point in time in the near future, their purchasing power is going to drastically reduce over what it is today.
So this gets back to this back and forth here about personal responsibility to save for your own retirement, because there are programs at work and you have a responsibility to take part in that program. There used to be a lot more pensions, but pensions are available at about 13% of public employees now, or public companies offer a pension. So for basically, let's say that, going forward, that's really not an option.
Right.
Social Security is going to give you some money, but not enough to live on in retirement. And there is a very strong possibility that in the next 15 years, they're going to have to draw back on that or raise taxes to generate more money to pay it. So it's probably not going to keep up with inflation. It may even decrease. So where does the onus lie for your retirement? It lies on you. You need to be the one that is going to save more. You need to be the one to be responsible for it, because if it's not going to be you and you're going to rely on the company or you're going to rely on others or government, the numbers just are not going to work.
Well, I think the other thing is no matter what's done, no matter how hard we beat the drum, with that large of a number not caring, basically, it's going to stay a large number. I mean, we're not going to get, all of a sudden universal adoption in saving for retirement, right? So I think the next thing is if you are saving, you have to understand what these numbers are going to do to your retirement, because the reality is the Employee Benefit Research Institute estimated earlier this month that 41% of U.S. households that are headed up by someone between the ages of 35 and 64 are likely to run out of retirement or run out of money in retirement. They also find that Americans face a combined retirement deficit of $3.83 trillion. That's a deficit. That's if everyone to retire successfully, we need $3.83 trillion injected into that. Also, keep in mind, that's based on Social Security not changing, which isn't likely, okay? So you're sitting there, you're saving, and you're saying, okay, well, how does this affect me? If you are not planning for taxes in retirement, if you are not doing everything you can to make sure you are prepared for the tax storm that is going to come in retirement, then you are potentially putting yourself in a position to fail as well, no matter what you have saved. Because as we have seen in a number of different situations, when the large majority doesn't bother to do anything, those of us that have done something now become the place that can solve that solution, right? Well, you've saved. Congratulations. What we're going to now do is tax you so that we can help the people who haven't saved. And so when you're having this conversation about retirement planning, what I see time and time again when people come in, they've not taken any consideration for what the tax implications of what they're looking to do looks like. 20% taxes, is not going to be what it's going to look like in retirement. The tax rates are going to go up. They have to. We have deficits up the wazoo.
And you see this being floated every once in a while in the legislatures. They'll talk things about, we're going to have a one-time tax on 401ks or increase the amount of tax. They've already done it as far as increasing the amount of tax on what your Social Security income is.
Yep. And there's talk of doing that more.
There's talk of doing that more. There's talk about, combining your IRAs with your Social Security to come up with one payment.
Right. Basically, they want your money to help keep Social Security afloat.
Right. So if you have funds that are tax protected, be on the lookout, because chances are they're going to have to go and tap money somewhere, and they're going to look for the biggest buckets of money they can tap to try to solve the problem.
And something the government does a lot of times when they're intent on doing something is they kind of do these warning shots across the bow to kind of see what the public reaction to it is. If you remember about 10 years ago, I think it was Nancy Pelosi that said, we have all this money in 401ks. We should just tax them one time and then we'll make them tax free in the future. That's a salvo. That's
Right.
let's throw that out there and see what happens to it. Well, they're increasingly doing that more often. There's been a couple times here in the last year, this idea of combining your retirement savings with Social Security have kind of been floated out there to see how it's received, So there's going to be a lot more of that. So it's not just about asset management. It's not just about your investments. It's about how are you going to coordinate your entire life in retirement. If you're not dealing with someone who looks at all aspects of that, legal, accounting, insurance, investments, you're just not going to be prepared, which is why we've teamed up with CPA, why we've teamed up with estate planning attorneys, why we have connections with insurance experts across all number of fields, because it's important to properly take you into that 30 years of retirement with what's going on politically and geopolitically and economically to look at all of those things when we're planning your retirement. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up when we talk about here in the next segment how your retirement is definitely going to be different than your parents right here on the Keep Your Money Show.
It's never too late to plan for your future, and the Keeping Your Money Show can help. Our team of advisors can answer questions you may have about investing your money. Through Securities America Inc., our advisors offer a diversified and comprehensive list of quality products and services. Call the Keeping Your Money Show at 1-888-98-MONEY or visit keepingyourmoney.com to schedule your free consultation.